Tonight's Monday Night Raw was a lame duck episode heading into the WWE Draft, which kicks off on SmackDown this upcoming Friday. It continues into Raw next week. Definitely not the most exciting episode tonight. I struggled with calling this a filler episode because I don't know that using the word filler is necessarily the right way to describe this show tonight, because there were a lot of things that happened tonight. The biggest thing was crowning a new Women's World Heavyweight Champion. Rhea Ripley forced to vacate her title last week due to injury. They made the decision to put the title up in a Battle Royal tonight, which is not the way that I would have gone with it. I'm not a fan of putting the title up in Battle Royals to begin with. Michael Cole even mentioned the fact tonight during the show that it's only happened 3 other times prior to tonight, and the first time in 17 years. There's a reason for that. Now, obviously, the injury is the real reason for it. But you got 2 tournaments coming up. You got the King of the Ring and the Queen of the Ring coming up in Saudi Arabia next month. I would have liked to have seen the Women's World title up for grabs in the Queen of the Ring. All right, really up the stakes there. Have qualifying matches, drag it out for several weeks. Make the matches mean something, really mean something on TV. But they felt like they were in an uber rush to get this belt onto somebody. And the person that they got the belt onto was the safe choice. We weren't sure coming into today whether or not Becky Lynch was going to be in this Battle Royal. She has not been seen since WrestleMania. But the minute that I saw that she was added to the graphic, it became pretty obvious how this was going to go. Becky Lynch, for the 7th time in her career, is a world champion. She eliminated Liv Morgan to win the Battle Royal tonight and get the belt. Only a few weeks after losing to Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania, Becky ends up a winner anyway. And I'm not surprised that they would have gone with the safe choice. They lost the biggest star they had in that Raw women's division. The next biggest star in that division was the woman that won the belt tonight. That's Becky Lynch. They panicked. They said, oh shit, we lost our biggest star. Let's put the belt on Becky. I don't know how long she's going to have that title for. I don't know if she's going to keep the belt on Raw. I don't know if they're going to draft her over to SmackDown. We'll find out in a few days if that happens. But she was the safe choice. Liv Morgan was the story-wise, was the choice that would have made more sense. But we don't know how long Rhea Ripley is going to be out for. I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily have the appetite to see Liv Morgan as the women's champion for 9 months or 6 months. I don't need to see that. Sorry, I just don't. Now, if Rhea Ripley is going to be gone for a while, I can understand them wanting to put the belt on somebody like Becky in the meantime. It doesn't mean that Liv is not going to eventually end up with the belt when we get a little bit closer to the point in which Rhea Ripley might be able to come back. She still might get that title, but she didn't get it tonight. We also got the first promo from Chad Gable since he turned heel on last week's show after losing to Sami Zayn. He's been doing a lot of that over the last several months, losing. Chad Gable, I can't remember the last time Chad Gable won a match. I'd be pissed too. I'd probably snap and go on a rampage also if I had a losing streak the way he does. There was something very humorous, though. In his promo tonight, he had the other members of Alpha Academy in the ring, and there was something that he said to Tozawa that I thought was just priceless, and I'll get to that later on when I get into the details of the segment. But we did have his first heel promo tonight, making it very clear that he is still coming after the Intercontinental title. We had a tag team championship match tonight. We had the return of Gunther to the show for the first time since losing the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. This is why I hesitate to call it a filler show, because, you know, a filler show would normally just imply that you got a bunch of, you know, boring enhancement matches coupled with stuff that really doesn't matter. They're just trying to kill time. There were things that were noteworthy that happened on the show tonight. It just wasn't a terribly exciting show. In fact, it was a struggle to get through parts of it, especially coming off of a Dynasty review, a Dynasty pay-per-view, and a recap that went into the wee hours of the morning. This was not the episode of Raw to be sitting through 3 hours tonight. But Gunther is back, and he did make his mission statement clear as to what he is going to be doing next. Now we know what he is going to be doing, coming off that loss of the Intercontinental title. And no, it is not going after the World Heavyweight Championship. That'll be soon. But there was some developments as far as Imperium is concerned. It looks like after tonight, Imperium is down one member. Poor Giovanni Vinci. I'd be very worried if I were him, especially coming off the events of last Friday. I might keep my phone turned off these next few days. So we're going to talk about this lame duck episode of Raw. This is your Monday Night Raw review. It is Monday, April 22nd, I believe, right? April 22nd or 21st? I don't even know what day of the week it is. Dynasty was the 21st. That means it's April 22nd, 2024. You could tell I'm going on 3 hours of sleep. One of those, it's always like that with these AEW pay-per-views, as late as they go. It's the one thing about them that I hate. But anyway, like, subscribe, as we climb towards 80,000. 450 likes is the goal for Be the Booker tonight. Super chats are open. And speaking of Dynasty, if you missed it, you can check out my Dynasty recap here on the channel. It is up for your viewing pleasure when you are done here. So if you missed it, you missed a hell of a pay-per-view last night. And some pretty damn good matches. So again, that review is up on the channel right now for those of you who may have missed it. But that was last night. Now we're here to talk about Raw, which is what we're going to get into here. Oh, yes, Von Wagner. Somebody brought that up. Thank you for reminding me. For all the releases that we heard about, I was talking about this on Friday night because the releases happened during SmackDown. While SmackDown was going on, they let go of Jinder Mahal. We found out later on in the night that Indus Sher, Veer, and Sangha are gone from WWE. Xia Li was released, Zion Quinn from NXT. And I just made a comment, was it on Friday or Sunday? I think on the podcast on Sunday. I was talking about some of these NXT names that were sort of drafted, I guess, as, well, they really weren't drafted. They were undrafted free agents, but they were never used. Zion Quinn made 2 appearances on the main roster before they cut him. But Von Wagner had been listed as a free agent for the better part of a year. And I can't remember the last time I saw him. And I just mentioned him by name the other day. And we come to find out today that he was among the names released on Friday. For whatever reason, the name didn't leak out until today. But Von Wagner is gone from WWE. Von Wagner is the one who at one point, Vince McMahon had him pegged as a future WrestleMania main eventer. He supposedly thought so highly of Von Wagner, or just his appearance and the way he looked, that he compared him to a young Adam Copeland. And Vince McMahon thought that Von Wagner one day would be headlining WrestleMania. Perhaps WrestleMania 54, maybe? Maybe he'll have a redemption arc. He'll leave, he'll come back like Drew McIntyre, and he'll be even better than he was when he left. Right? Never say never. But it ain't going to happen anytime soon. So you can add him to the list of names. Now, they started the show tonight a little bit differently than they normally do. We had Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. They were standing in the ring. They welcomed us to the show. McAfee said that tonight's match to determine a new women's champion would be only the 4th time a world champion would be crowned in a battle royal. He called it one of the biggest matches in company history. That's what they have to say. Nobody watching this show actually believes that to be true, but in the universe that they live in, it's part of the hype machine. They want you to believe that this big battle royal tonight is going to be one of the biggest matches in the history of the company. If this match is one of the biggest matches in the history of the company, that doesn't speak very well to the history of this company. But Cole labeled the battle royal as the show's main event, and that set up a video package that recapped Rhea Ripley relinquishing her title due to a shoulder injury. The actual injury, it's an AC joint injury. Don't know if it's a sprained AC joint or torn, or exactly what the nature of the injury is. I'm not even sure if she's going to need surgery. They've been very quiet about it. That would give us an indication of how long Rhea may be gone for. Is she going to be gone for 4 months? Is she going to be gone for 9 months? Right? It's a big difference there. Are we looking at a SummerSlam return for Rhea Ripley in a match with Liv Morgan, or are we looking for a return in the Royal Rumble? Rhea Ripley wins the Rumble and punches her ticket to WrestleMania. We don't know yet. But Jey Uso made his entrance, and Michael Cole hyped up the World Heavyweight title match coming up at Backlash. A week from Saturday, they're going to be in France, and he will be challenging Damian Priest for the title. Jey said that he has to beat Priest to live up to his main event billing, said that everything he has been through has to be worth it. Only way to prove that is by winning the championship. That brought out Damian Priest, who came out all by himself. There were no other members of the Judgment Day with him. He was dressed in his street clothes. Priest said that he just came here to talk. You know, he didn't come here to fight. He didn't come here for any physicality. He just wanted to have a chat with Jey Uso. And Priest said that the Yeet vibe and the main event moniker suit Jey very well, and he congratulated him on becoming #1 contender and on all of his success. Priest also remembered going to war with Jey last year. He said, you know, I never spoke about this publicly, but there was one night when Jey whooped his ass so bad that he approached him in the locker room after, and he told Jey that he had earned his respect. And Priest said that's why he wanted Jey in the Judgment Day when they were trying to recruit him into the group after he got drafted to Raw. So he said, you know, if you remember, you and I, we went out for drinks that night, and Priest said he paid the bill. Jey said he took an Uber home. You know, if that were true, the Usos wouldn't have gotten into the kind of trouble they've gotten into before. But I laughed at that. So Priest also remembered Jey telling him that they were next. And Priest was proud to stand here with him tonight and tell him that he was right, but Jey was only half right. Because Priest is the World Heavyweight Champion, and Jey is not. So Priest called Jey the first on a list of people that the machine will feed to him to make the title look good. And then he went to go leave, and Jey said, whoa, hold on a second. Said something to him in Spanish, como. Told Priest to come on back in the ring. Jey was offended that Priest thought of him, he says, as just another tag team guy. I was a little confused by this because that's not at all what Damian Priest actually said to him, so I'm not exactly sure how he gleaned that from what he was saying. I was kind of sitting here confused, saying that's really not at all what he just said. And he thought that was rich coming from someone in a stable. Jey told Priest the only reason he was the leader of the Judgment Day is because Rhea Ripley got hurt. And that got a rise out of the crowd. Jey wanted Priest to tell Rhea he said hi. Jey's always had a thing for her. He also said that must make Priest Dominic Mysterio's bitch. So Jey said that Priest was the one being fed to him because he was the next World Heavyweight Champion. JD McDonough got into the ring. He went after Jey from behind. Jey was able to avoid him. Jey threw a super kick. It was intended for McDonough, but he ducked and he hit Damian Priest instead. With the kick, Jey had a moment, it looked like, of regret, but then it looked like he was mocking Priest, and then he left the ring. And McDonough could tell that Priest was very upset. He tried to plead his case to him. Priest was very angry. I thought that, Jey Uso was good here at the end. I thought Jey was good, but this just felt very forced. Like all of a sudden they're trying to fill in gaps about, well, there's some personal history between the two of them. They used to be friends, and it just sort of came out of nowhere. It's almost as if, well, we're trying to figure out, how we could throw a little more gas on the fire here going into Backlash. And so we'll make up this shit about a story that happened last year. And you remember those days? Remember when we went out that night, what you told me in the locker room? I don't know, the whole thing, even just the way that Priest was acting here was very unlike him. And it just felt very out of character. But even Jey, again, making the comment about how, so, you're saying what you're saying because you just look at me as a tag team guy. And I'm just sitting there trying to figure out how he, pulled that out of what Priest said. This is just a very weird segment to open the show. We had The Miz and R-Truth, the new World Tag Team Champions, defending their titles against DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. Two Ohio boys in this match, Gargano and Miz. And, DIY comes out. They have their merch. which is DX inspired. I got to tell you, watching them walk out, I know it's part of the comedy with Truth, who thinks that they're Shawn Michaels and Triple H. It just comes off to me like they're just cosplaying as DX. It's not even like a tribute. It's like, all right, it looks like you're dressing up as DX for Halloween. Can we not do this, please? So Miz tried a springboard move. Ciampa caught him with a midair knee strike. Truth tagged into the match. He did John Cena's moves. Gargano cut him off with a super kick. Ciampa followed with a pedigree for a near fall. Gargano took out Miz with a suicide dive, and Truth cradled Ciampa for a 2 count. DIY hit Truth with their meet in the middle finish. Miz, though, yanked Gargano out of the ring as he made the cover. Miz threw Ciampa over the barricade and then tagged into the match. And Miz and Truth hit Gargano with their combination skull-crushing finale flatliner finish to retain the titles. After the match was over, Truth and Miz, they embraced Gargano. Miz offered a handshake to Ciampa, and instead, Ciampa just left the ring. So, very interesting here. No handshake from Tommaso Ciampa, and the crowd booed. So, are we getting a DIY heel turn soon? If they keep losing, they almost have no choice. I mean, what else are you going to do with them? They had a title match a few months ago on TV against the Judgment Day, and they lost. They were part of the ladder match of WrestleMania, and they lost. They had another shot tonight in Gargano's home state, and they lost. Where do they go from here? I mean, they either get drafted to SmackDown. I mean, really, there's only 2 options here. You turn them heel, or you draft them to SmackDown. Otherwise, they're just treading water. I don't know where else they go from here. But what it made me wonder is maybe we are going to get that Way reunion, right? There was some talk of it early on when they first got called up. They were going to maybe reform the Way faction from NXT, which was not even Ciampa. It was Gargano, Indy, Candice, Dexter Lumis, and Austin Theory. Theory obviously is doing his thing right now. Maybe we're going to get the Way. I mean, look, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, they have gravitated towards the dark side recently, so they've kind of gone on the heel side. That would make sense to put them all together, as a faction, since they love their factions here in WWE. But we'll see. Obviously, this is going to have to lead to some kind of attitude adjustment for these two, because otherwise they're dead in the water right now. Now, backstage, Damian Priest was not happy. He was admonishing JD McDonough. They were approached by Dominic, who has an amazing mustache now. He's already got the mullet. Now he's got the mustache. The only thing missing now is a double-wide trailer for he and Rhea to be hanging out in. But more important than the mustache, he had his arm in a sling. Said he got hurt. It must be sympathy pain. Rhea's arm was in a sling last week. She hurt her arm, now he hurt his. I don't know if that's a real injury or not. I assume it must be, because they had announced that he was going to be in a tag team match tonight, and they replaced him with Santos Escobar. So he brought Escobar into the picture here after telling Priest that he got banged up, so he brought him in to be his replacement. He said, I cleared it already with Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, so it's all good. Priest was very annoyed by this. He told Escobar to handle things tonight, and Escobar told him not to worry. Gunther, first time since WrestleMania, 666 days as the Intercontinental Champion. Down the tubes, thanks to Sami Zayn. This was his first appearance since WrestleMania 40. Down to the ring with the rest of Imperium for a promo. He said he took some time away to digest everything. He said for 666 days, he elevated the Intercontinental title to heights never seen before. And in that process, he became the greatest champion in the history of that title. His name will forever be embedded in the history of the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. I love the way he says that. The Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. That's the way it used to be announced when I was a kid. They would make the match announcements. It was always the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. I guess we're not going to get that anymore. We'll have to wait until he wins the world title, but they already call it the World Heavyweight title. That's the name of the title, so just makes it seem more official this way. He said that also meant being champion for that long, that he's been walking around with a target on his back and a weight on his shoulders, but that weight has now been lifted. And he thanks Sami Zayn because now he is not a target anymore. Now he goes from being the hunted to being the hunter. And no matter which brand he is drafted to, he said he will make sure that his name is embedded into this new era. And with that, the real news here of this segment, he announced his participation in the King of the Ring tournament coming up next month. After that, he said it's going to be up to him to decide which championship to take next, whether it's Sami Zayn in the Intercontinental title or any other championship in WWE. But, fair warning, as a champion in WWE, you will be targeted. You will be hunted by a challenger who can hold on to titles longer than anyone else. Already the General of the Ring, soon to be King of the Ring General Gunther. And so ended his promo. As they went to leave, the New Day's music hit, and I said, oh God, I thought we were done with this. I thought we were done with this. New Day, Imperium. They pulled the best out of each other. We actually got to see a serious side of New Day. Imperium, they had a mean streak, man. They looked like a formidable team for the first time since they got called up to the main roster. They had a good feud. It went on for months. It was good. Leave it alone. Here they come again. Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Woods pointed out that he was the last King of the Ring winner. That was back in 2021. And he said that makes Gunther a pretender to his throne, and he plans on cementing his legacy when he becomes a two-time King of the Ring winner. Gunther called him a clown king and said that after he wins, he is going to reestablish the image of the King of the Ring tournament. And Woods, he said, will be remembered as that weird guy who won by accident. And Woods rubbed in the fact that Gunther used to be a champion. They started acting all goofy. I know you're shocked by this. Gunther cut him off and told Gio and Kaiser to take care of this. And even Woods, even Xavier Woods, as self-aware as he is, said, no. We fought them too much. We fought you guys too much already. He said, but if you two boys want a match right here, right now in Columbus, Ohio, then we will gladly beat your cheeks. King of the Ring, if you think about it, just feels like it was tailor-made for Gunther, right? It's just, you look at him and everything he stands for. He just lost the Intercontinental title. We're wondering what's next for this guy. And it just so happens they have a King of the Ring tournament coming up next month. It's almost too perfect. Now, I've had people, even tonight, there was one person I saw talking about Money in the Bank and how Gunther could win Money in the Bank. He doesn't need King of the Ring. That doesn't work. It doesn't. Even if he wins Money in the Bank and calls his shot, which he would have to, because just the whole concept of Money in the Bank is just, it's just so, the antithesis of what Gunther represents. King of the Ring makes more sense for him than Money in the Bank does. Money in the Bank makes more sense for someone like LA Knight, not for Gunther. What I'm curious about is, and what I got out of what he said here in this promo, right? Make note of what he said. He's going to win King of the Ring, and then he's going to choose which championship he wants to go after. And he didn't say which world title. He said, maybe I'll go after the Intercontinental title again. I'll go after Sami Zayn. Maybe I'll go after some other title. Now, I don't know if that was just what they had him say, and that's not a reflection of what the actual rules are going to be. I don't know if they've even necessarily figured out what's going to be on the line in King of the Ring. Obviously, it will be some sort of title opportunity. We don't know if it will be limited to the brand that you were on, or if it'll be like the Royal Rumble, where if you win, you get to choose whatever champion you want. Is it only the world title? Is it other titles? We don't know. They haven't told us the rules yet. But that was the most interesting takeaway, because they haven't said a word about stakes or anything being at stake. They've done King of the Ring. Look, they did it 2 years ago with Xavier Woods. It wasn't like there was a title match on the line. You get the goofy crown, and that's it. There should be something on the line in King of the Ring. I don't even necessarily care if they limit it to one brand or the other, It doesn't matter as long as there's something tangible on the line other than a cape and a crown and a scepter. I mean, can you imagine Gunther winning King of the Ring if he was to win King of the Ring? It's not a guarantee that he will, but imagine him winning King of the Ring and they put that fucking crown on him. And we see him on television every week in a crown and a robe and a scepter. He'd look like a cartoon character. It just wouldn't fit. So there has to be something else on the line here. And this would be a fantastic way to get him a title match, whatever title it may be, right? Just by winning the tournament. I don't know if it would have to be cashed in a certain amount of time at Clash at the Castle, or, he can hold on to it and wait until maybe Bash in Berlin. We'll wait to find out what the rules are going to be here. But we know at least one man. Actually, we know more than that. Get to Drew McIntyre later. But we know at least one man who's going to be in King of the Ring. Now, after a break, it was The New Day against Vinci and Kaiser. Oh, John, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Sheamus and the Antlers when he won King of the Ring. That was fucking death for the longest time for Sheamus. That was the worst thing that ever happened to him, was winning King of the Ring. And then you had like Wade Barrett, I think, won it. And again, there were people who won King of the Ring and it was a net positive for them, but there were a lot of people who won King of the Ring and it was the exact opposite. Like Booker T was the king and it reinvigorated his career. He ended up becoming world heavyweight champion. Or if you look back at the early years of King of the Ring, right, some people benefited more than others. But then you look at someone like poor Sheamus, whatever year that was, 2010, I think, 2009, 2010. Fucking guy. New Day and Imperium. Gunther was at ringside to observe. He was watching intently. Imperium was in control. Woods, though, made a hot tag and hit Vinci with a tornado DDT. Kingston tagged in. Vinci, though, turned him inside out with a clothesline. Imperium tried a double team move. Woods, though, intercepted, and Kingston was able to counter. And Kofi placed Vinci over his knee, and then Woods jumped off the top rope with a double stomp to Vinci before pinning him. I think they called that the up, up, down, down. Gunther was pissed because Imperium loses again. So he's furious. He stands up, and he's sitting in one of these big, like, leather announce chairs. And he picks up the chair, and he throws it against the LED barricade, and he storms off. He walks right by, like, Kaiser. He's, like, staring at Kaiser, and this man is fuming, and Gunther walks to the back. So now, Kaiser and Vinci are left at the ring by themselves, and the music stops. So as soon as the music stopped, I knew exactly what was coming. But they milked it for a little bit. So Kaiser's giving him a hug, and he gave him a kiss on his bald head. He helped him to his feet, and I'm waiting for it, and nothing happens. And Kaiser leaves the ring. Now he's standing there. He's waiting for Vinci to come out of the ring, and again, he gives him a hug, and I think he gave him a kiss again. And then he lowered the boom. And he attacked Vinci, drove him backwards into the LED apron, which glitched out. And no, it was not Uncle Howdy. Kaiser tossed Vinci all over the ringside area. He tossed him into the ring post and then into the steel steps. Kaiser placed Vinci face first on the steps. Hey, Corey Everett, thank you for the $25 Bree mode and for becoming a Sound Off superstar. Thank you very much. And hey, Moise A just gifted 5 channel memberships. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. So he was about to kill this man. He was about to kill his tag team partner. Referees run out. They get between them. And they're telling Kaiser, get to the back. Leave him alone and get out of here. And Kaiser says, okay. So Kaiser backs off, and it looks like he's going to go leave. He starts to make his way towards the back. But then he ends up sprinting around the entire length of the ring, and he comes charging in with a running drop kick. Drop kicks Vinci's head right into the ring steps. He was kind of dangling over the steps. Michael Cole, he sold this huge. It reminded me of, Kaiser did the same thing to Kofi Kingston. That was like a big angle. They sold that huge a few months ago when he did that to Kofi. They sold it like it could be the end of Kofi's career. So I like how they at least, played it up like this could be a big injury angle. So the cameraman followed Kaiser to the back into the gorilla position. Gunther was standing there and he looked pleased. And Kaiser said, "I told you I would get it done." And he walked off. And Gunther just smiled. He was very happy with what he just saw. The match itself was forgettable. Again, we've seen 1,000 of these fucking matches here between these two teams. There was nothing special about it. But it wasn't about the match. The real news came in the post-match angle. Giovanni Vinci has seemingly been, unless this is meant to be some kind of a wake-up call and that he's going to still be part of Imperium when he comes back and he'll start winning, but I'm sorry. I cracked myself up. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get that out without making some kind of laugh or snort. I know the idea of Giovanni Vinci winning matches is just comical. He's gone. He's gone from he's gone from Imperium once and for all. I know they've teased this before, but this has got to be the end of him in this group. The timing is very curious, though. Maybe they didn't win a whole lot of matches, but Imperium is one of the tag teams in that division on Monday Night Raw. Now, we just had a ladder match at WrestleMania where they split the titles, which I was not in favor of doing. Because even going into WrestleMania, I didn't feel, and I still don't feel, that the divisions individually are as strong as they would be if you just had one singular tag team division. They have not done a great job of restocking each individual division to where I think that it was the right time to split the belts, but that's what they did. So they split the belts at WrestleMania. And now you have seemingly broken up Imperium. Damian Priest and Finn Balor, who were the champions, and they are still technically together in the Judgment Day, they're not really going to be a team going forward, especially now that Priest is the World Heavyweight Champion. You have Indus Sher, and again, I recognize they were hardly making any appearances, but they were part of that Raw roster. They just got fired on Friday. You look even beyond Raw, you look at SmackDown, Legado del Fantasma. Cruz del Toro just had arm surgery. He's going to be gone for months. So I'm sorry, I said Legado. I meant the LWO. So Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro, they were the team out of the LWO. They are no longer a team because Cruz del Toro is gone. So there are a few situations like that on the roster. It just seems like a very curious decision to split these guys right now when you need more teams. Instead, they seem to be subtracting them. At a time when we now have 2 sets of tag team titles, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I'll tell you something. If I am Giovanni Vinci, I don't feel good about this. Giovanni Vinci is not going to get a singles push on his own. It's not going to happen. So he's very talented. I was a fan of his going back to the first time I saw him in the Continental Classic. He didn't really look like a cruiserweight to me. And again, I had Continental Classic on the brain because of last night. But the Cruiserweight Classic, I saw him there for the first time. He was doing things in that match that made me go, holy shit. I just didn't think he could pull stuff like that off. And that's where I first saw him. And they tried with him in NXT. Shawn Michaels did. They gave him a gimmick on his own. And who knows, maybe he would have been able to make it work. I mean, he didn't play that character for very long. But I was very happy when they brought him back to Imperium after splitting him away from them the first time. I don't see a future for him as a single star. So if he really is out of Imperium, I don't see a very rosy future for him in this company. And you just had 6 people, at least 6 people, that were let go this past week. And, I hate to think the worst here, but he seems like someone that would be considered low-hanging fruit if they're looking to, cut the budget and get rid of people that they're not really using. I would be a little worried if I were him. That's all I'm saying. Now, there were rumors a few months ago. And I don't know where this started. I don't know if it came from social media or if anybody actually reported this. I don't think it was reported by anybody reputable. But there was talk about the possibility of adding a new member of Imperium or replacing Vinci with a new member of Imperium, and that new member would be Ilya Dragunov, who is the current NXT champion, although he may not be for much longer. He is defending the title, I believe, tomorrow night against Trick Williams, and I would suggest with the draft coming up this week, pretty good chance we might get a title change there. But he is the reigning NXT champion. Dragunov is fantastic. Dragunov had a couple of just out-of-this-world great matches with Gunther when they were in NXT and NXT UK. I would like to see them. I look forward to seeing them one day again on opposite sides of the ring on the main roster. I have no doubt in my mind when that day comes, they will tear it down. I know the main roster audience is different than the NXT audience, or at least that's the way it used to be. Not a doubt in my mind when that day comes that we see Gunther and Dragunov one-on-one on a WWE pay-per-view or on a SmackDown or on a Monday Night Raw, that they will tear the house down. But the rumor was that he would be added to Imperium, and that makes absolutely no sense to me. In fact, I think Dragunov was asked about that once in like a podcast interview, and he also said that he had no interest in joining Imperium. I feel like that's just the case where, you know, they feuded and they're, you know, foreign talents, and so we'll put them together on the main roster, but it just, for Dragunov, it just doesn't make any sense to do that. What I can get behind is if he's going to get called up, maybe a feud with Kaiser, and then we get the eventual match with him and Gunther. That I'm all for. But just adding him, you know, replacing Vinci and throwing Dragunov into Imperium, I don't like that idea. I don't see the point in that. So hopefully that was just that, a rumor, and nothing more. But I do fully expect to see Dragunov drafted to Raw or SmackDown by the beginning of next week. Now we have Drew McIntyre up next. Drew McIntyre was out to the ring for a promo, and he got into the ring. He sat cross-legged in the center of the ring, just like CM Punk, his old friend. Good old CM Punk. This man lives rent-free in Drew McIntyre's head. Lives rent-free, I think, in a lot of people's heads, including in the other company. McIntyre told the cameraman not to look up his kilt, called him a perv. McIntyre asked the fans, why do you insist on chanting for Punk? Why do you insist on chanting this man's name every time I come out here? Which, of course, only necessitated more chants of CM Punk. McIntyre said that Punk hates the fans. He doesn't like you guys. He hates the fans, and the only person that Punk hates more than the fans is himself. McIntyre asked the fans if they have ever loved something that did not love them back as much as you loved it. He said that's his complex relationship with pro wrestling. So there were fans in the crowd who started to give him the what treatment. And he responded to this by telling these people, say what if you French kiss your cousins?
Look at Richie Rich over here dropping all this money on me. Hey, I just want you to know, I think you rock. I don't mean The Rock, A-Rock, you rock. And I just wanted you to know that.
Hey, Moyes is coming in with a $100 super chat bomb. A hundy on a Monday. I love it. Says, sorry for the hate that you've been getting, Solomonster, just for enjoying professional wrestling. Thank you again for all that you do. You are the best. You have no idea how many times you've helped me survive the day with your reviews and the Sound Off podcast, so thank you. Well, brother, I am very grateful for your support, and that is a very nice thing for you to say. I'm glad that you have gotten something out of these shows and out of these reviews, because there's a lot of them. But that's awesome. Thank you, man. Thank you for the bomb. Moyes coming in with the gifted memberships and the $100 super chat. This guy does it all. But Drew McIntyre shut that shit down quickly when it came to the what chants here from this crowd. He said that they should say what if they French kissed their cousins, and some of them did. Some of them said, what? What? And he told them that they're sick. I guess that's how they do it in Columbus, Ohio. That, funny enough, did end up shutting down the what chance. He's getting good at this. He's getting good at shutting this shit down. So McIntyre said the fans don't understand complex relationships because the most complex relationship most of them had was with their right hand. This man's on fire. He said Damian Priest used his Money in the Bank contract to cash in on him like a coward, and then he didn't get his rematch like everybody else. McIntyre said that he was in a number one contender four-way that Punk interfered in, and then called Jey Uso a coward for taking advantage of it. He said that he wasn't complaining, and instead he would target the King of the Ring. So we have our second announced star. I don't know if it's official yet, but our second person on this show to announce themselves for the King of the Ring tournament. I'll tell you what, this tournament is shaping up to be something else here. You got Gunther in there. You got Drew McIntyre. Pretty good chance this next guy who came out is going to be in there too, I would say. Somebody who's very familiar with King of the Ring. Hopefully, if he were to win it this time, it would work out a little bit differently than it did the previous time. But McIntyre mentioned the draft. He said he doesn't care. He doesn't give a damn where he ends up. It doesn't matter. Lobsterhead interrupted, and Sheamus walked out. He walked to the ring. While he was cutting a promo, he got into the ring. He asked McIntyre what his problem was, and he said that in McIntyre, he saw a man who wouldn't take responsibility for his own mistakes. Sheamus said that some would say that makes McIntyre a coward. And he had McIntyre stand up because he was still sitting cross-legged in the middle of the ring. Said he feels he at least has earned that much respect that you can stand up when I'm speaking to you. And so Drew stood up. Sheamus remembered McIntyre winning the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania this year and said he blew it. He blew it all for a social media stunt. He said McIntyre threw it all away. He said he's McIntyre's friend. He said, you and I, we've had banger after banger after banger after banger. He said he was there to tell McIntyre the hard truth. A one-armed CM Punk kicked your ass. So McIntyre said that Sheamus knows better than anybody what Punk did to him and how it affected his career. Sheamus said this obsession is taking down McIntyre's career and he needs to get it out of his head. Drew said that if Sheamus wanted to tell the hard truth, you want to talk hard truth? He goes, all right, we'll talk hard truth here. He said it was banger after banger after banger before Sheamus got hurt, but now it looks like it's been burger after burger after burger. And Sheamus laughed, and Sheamus said, you know, I've been watching you here these last several months. You've been getting real good at these one-liners. Then he said, look, I can lose the weight. He said, but you can't lose stupid. So Sheamus told McIntyre, stop blaming everybody else. McIntyre said he stood up for Sheamus when people in the back were making comments about him last week and were mocking him, mocking his weight, as everybody was doing on social media last week when he came back after 8 months away, right? He said there were boys in the back who were doing the same thing and they were talking crap about you, and I stuck up for you. He said he's Sheamus's only friend. He said they've always been able to fight and have some pints after. McIntyre was past that now. He only fought, he said, if it was worthwhile, and this isn't worthwhile. But he was still Sheamus's friend. He said he was going to remain at ringside for his match to, quote, watch your back. And the tone of his voice changed when he said those words, so they kind of left it where you didn't exactly know what he meant by that when he says, I'm going to watch your back, right? They did that on purpose. I like the exchange here between these two. I thought this was a good segment. I enjoyed this. And I would not mind seeing these two, and I wonder if maybe this is where it's leading. I would not mind seeing these two meet up in the King of the Ring. Not even a Backlash, but these two meet in the opening round or maybe the semifinal round of the King of the Ring tournament. I think that would be great if you saved a match between these two for the tournament, assuming both of them are going to end up being in it. I also like how they incorporated the Sheamus stuff into this. I talked about this on the podcast on Sunday. You know, Sheamus took a lot of ribbing. He took a lot of jokes. He was the butt of a lot of memes over the past week. When he showed up on Raw last week Again, first time in 8 months. He was softer. His physique was a lot softer than it usually is. It was a lot softer and it was noticeable too. But, people went online and they talked about, wow, Sheamus got fat. What happened to Sheamus? And coming up with all kinds of names for him. And he had a good laugh at it himself. And he posted about it on social media. People calling him, Whale Miss and Sheamus. And instead of too many limes, from his theme song, too many pies. So that was going on over the past week. All the people making fun of this guy. So they decided to incorporate it into the promo here, and Sheamus just kind of laughed it off, and he shot it down. I like the way they did that, where it's kind of like, yeah, I don't give a shit. It's like, yeah, whatever. He goes, I'll lose the weight, but I can't change you. You're acting stupid. You can't fix stupid. So I like how they weaved it into the promo here. And as far as Sheamus is concerned, I mean, look, the people can go online and it's one thing to crack like a funny joke or whatever and then move on. But some of the comments, especially on Instagram, I don't know what it is about Instagram. But again, people were going in hard on this guy and talking about him being fat. Pat McAfee on commentary tonight, he didn't dance around it. He goes, yeah, people were calling him fat, all week long. I'll tell you what, I guarantee you, more than half the people who were making fun of Sheamus and calling him fat, they would kill to be as fat as Sheamus is, okay? And Sheamus, by the way, he walked out this week. It's only been a week. He's already looking smaller than he did last week. The guy said he's been living in the gym over the last few weeks. Now, for those who don't know, he got called up early. He claimed that he wasn't expecting to come back until the draft. He got an early phone call and said, hey, we need you, and you're going to be wrestling Ivar on Raw. So he said, oh, okay. And he showed up last week the way that he did. So he's been living in the gym. You could tell, because again, he's already trimming down, and it's only been a week. But again, the guy is 46 years old. He's coming off of neck surgery. I still don't know what the nature of the neck surgery was. I don't know if it was, I don't think it was a fusion, but any neck surgery is serious stuff. So I don't know if he only recently got cleared to start training. Very possible. 46 years old, the guy had neck surgery. He's got spinal stenosis. He's got all kinds of problems. 2 months ago, he thought he was going to have to retire. He was this close from hanging up the boots once and for all. But he said the doctors and the trainers, they were able to get him back into, good shape to where he could be medically cleared, which is great. And I'm glad to have him back. But again, like I said, I guarantee you, all the people who were mocking this guy and going in on him all week long, oh my God, Sheamus looks terrible. Look at this. What's he doing? He's letting himself go, right? They would kill to look like Sheamus. Most of these people would kill to look like this guy. Give me a fucking break. So Sheamus was up next. He went one-on-one with Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura targeted the neck. Sheamus fought back and hit an avalanche white noise. Sheamus looked over at McIntyre, who was there at ringside watching his match. Sheamus then countered a Kinshasa attempt into a power slam. Nakamura avoided a brogue kick. Sheamus responded with a knee strike, and then he finished him off with a brogue kick for the win. This is why I have suggested drafting Nakamura to NXT. This is it. This is as good as it's going to get for him. He'll be the punching bag. He'll be the guy that you can just throw out there. Somebody can beat him. At least if he goes to NXT for a while. I mean, look, it did wonders for Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin's probably going to get drafted back to the main roster this week. And you know what? I don't hate Baron Corbin. I just got so fucking bored of seeing this guy that he had channel-changing heat with me. He went away. He had some success in NXT. He formed this Wolf Dogs team with Braun Breaker. Up until recently, they were the NXT Tag Team Champions. Did they lose the belts? I don't even know if they lost the belts or not. I told you, I got a lot of catching up to do with NXT. I'm not even sure if they still have the belts. But Nakamura could go to NXT for a while, and it would be like brand new. When was the last time he was consistently working in NXT? He can go down there. He could actually start winning some matches. He can work with some of the younger talent, and he can, more importantly, get away from doing nothing but jobbing every single time you see him on TV. Because otherwise, I don't really see there being any other role for him on Raw or SmackDown. This is it. So my suggestion was send him to NXT. You know, if Corbin gets called back up, you could send Nakamura down there. There was a video package showing Sami Zayn beating Chad Gable last week in his hometown of Montreal and winning the Intercontinental title. Come Back Live, Kathy Kelly, and of course, what happened after the match when Gable assaulted him in front of his wife. So Kathy Kelly, live, was interviewing Zayn in the back. Sami was very upset. He was hurt by what happened. Had a lot to say, he said, but he was biting his tongue. He said he wanted to hear what Gable had to say tonight because he didn't know how Chad could possibly defend his actions. Bronson Reed walked into the frame, and he said that Sami had bigger problems to worry about. Zayn told him, hey, we can fight anytime, any place. And Reed laughed, walked away. Kathy Kelly was about to resume the interview when all of a sudden Reed comes back in. He attacks him. Here come the referees to pull him away. Reed ended up crushing Sami up against some equipment cases. And then he looked down at him and he said that he was going to be the next Intercontinental Champion. So there's your Backlash match. Sami Zayn against Bronson Reed. But Chad Gable was up next to explain his actions. After losing last week, doing what he did to Sami Zayn, he came out to the ring. He was dressed in a suit. He had the Alpha Academy with him. They stood behind him in the ring while he cut his promo. So you had Otis, you had Maxine in the middle, and then you had Akira Tozawa on the end. Chad Gable was in front. He said Sami Zayn had a rough couple of weeks, but at least what he did to him was justified. Gable said that he could accept losing to Sami, but he accused him of rubbing it in by bringing the belt over to him. At the end of the match last week, Chad was all emotional. Remember, he was sitting in the corner, and Sami came over to him. And apparently this was taken by Chad Gable as Sami Zayn rubbing it in his face. But he got up, and he raised Sami's arm, right, even though he didn't want to. But he said after that, Sami and his wife and what they were doing, him going over to his wife and kissing his wife and hugging his wife in the front row, that was just rubbing salt in the wound. He said, that should have been me. It's like fucking Dolph Ziggler now. It should have been me. That should have been him. Challenging for the Intercontinental title, winning the Intercontinental title and beating Gunther at WrestleMania. That should have been my little girl in the front row, celebrating with me in that championship belt. He says, instead, I wasted my time training Sami Zayn and a bunch of freaking losers. And at that point, he went over to Tozawa first, because Tozawa had a look on his face like he was ashamed. So he goes over to Tozawa, and he says, you have a problem with that? And Tozawa says, no. So Gable he called him Mr. Funny Man. He says, Mr. Funny Man, he said that you do your little dance and yet you rack up loss after loss. And this is the comment that I was referencing at the beginning of the review. So does Gable, by the way. He's talking about how this man, all you do is lose. You go out there and you lose and you lose and you lose. And I said, brother, you don't have a leg to stand on here. Who are you to go up to this guy and say, hey, you're a fucking loser. All you do is lose. That's all Chad Gable's been doing for 6 months. Actually, longer than that. Then he walks over to Maxine. Says, pretty as a princess, dumb as a box of rocks. Gable said that he gave her everything and got nothing in return. I don't know exactly what he meant by that, but apparently he expected something in return, and Chad Gable is very upset that he did not get that. It's wrestling, so you never know what that could mean. So then Gable turned to Otis and said, don't even get me started. He called Otis his prized pupil, #1 guy. You have proven yourself beyond a shadow of a doubt to be the biggest disappointment of them all. Gable said they all signed up for his academy to get honest feedback, and that's what he's giving them. He told them to get on the same page and just know that from now on, the focus is on me. We are all going to win my Intercontinental Championship together. And you're going to help me no matter what, right? And Gable told them all to say no matter what. And Otis said it. Gable said that, I didn't hear you. And he ordered him to say it again. Otis said the line. Gable said good. And then he dropped the mic and he left the ring while Otis and Maxine and Tozawa, they all consoled each other in the middle of the ring. So for his first heel promo, I thought Gable did a good job here. And I like that the other members of the Alpha Academy were especially the way they lined them up behind him and he just went down the line one by one like a drill sergeant. And I like the way they used them to get sympathy. They got sympathy on them, but it got heat on Gable because he's just being a complete dick to these people. So I like the way they do that here in this segment. They obviously feel this sense of loyalty to him. They're going to stick with him for now. It's not like the Alpha Academy is dead just yet. They may even help him win the championship. My question is, though, where were the Creeds? That's what I'm waiting for. Because the rumor going around is that WWE is considering pairing Chad Gable and the Creed brothers as a heel trio, kind of like almost a new age version of Team Angle. And I'm all for that. Okay, so sign me up for that. That's what I'd like to see. I don't care if he keeps Otis around, Tozawa. Tozawa doesn't need to be with them. Tozawa is there for comedy. Okay, so you want to use him and kind of get sympathy on him and get heat on Gable for now, that's fine, but he's got to cut the dead weight soon. That includes Maxine, that includes Tozawa. Otis, I can go either way on keeping Otis in or out. You know, you could turn Otis heel maybe and keep him in there, but I like the idea of having that trio of the Creeds. Maybe Otis and Tozawa, they're not really sold on this. We don't want to do this. We don't want to cheat to help you win. It goes against everything you taught us. But the Creeds end up having no issue doing that. And the Creeds could actually beat down Tozawa. They could beat down Otis. And now Chad Gable has his pupils. He's got Julius, he's got Brutus, and soon enough he will have the Intercontinental title. The Creeds could help him win the Intercontinental Championship when that time comes. That's what I'd like to see. But at least we know wherever that Intercontinental title goes in this draft, whether they keep it on Raw or they move it over to SmackDown, that's where Chad Gable is going to go. This story doesn't work unless he's on the same brand with the Intercontinental title. So where one goes, the other will go. Now he just needs to start racking up wins. He can go out there and talk about how you're all a bunch of losers. All you do is lose and embarrass me. But, there is going to come a point where he has to start winning matches. That point is now. Bronson Reed is going to get the next shot, it looks like, at Backlash. Do that match. That's a couple of weeks away. Coming out of that, though, Chad Gable, you've got to develop this heel persona for him. You got to send him out there. He's got to start winning matches with various submission holds and not letting go and being as vicious as he possibly can be and start racking up some wins. And eventually he'll get back up to Sami Zayn. The next time they get in the ring together, the next time Chad Gable is in a match where the Intercontinental title is on the line, he needs to win. He'll have help doing it, but he needs to win. He cannot go in there and continue to lose and have people take this character seriously. This is like a make or break moment here for this character. I like what they did here, but you got to win. Now is the time for him to start winning. We had Ricochet and Andrade taking on Santos Escobar and JD McDonough in the absence of Dominic Mysterio due to his injury. Escobar took his place. Santos Escobar came out by himself. He made his entrance. No reaction. When I say he came out to no reaction, I mean no reaction. Not like a mild reaction, a respect like a golf clap, or nothing. Absolutely nothing. Maybe they were all SmackDown fans in the crowd. Or I should say they were not SmackDown fans in the crowd because he's a SmackDown guy. So maybe they said, who's this guy? We don't know who he is. I don't know. But it was kind of sad watching him go out there to crickets. Heels took control ahead of the break. Dominic got involved. Andrade made a tag. Can't say it was a hot tag. Hot tag implies that the people actually cared about it, which was not the case here. There was no actual measurable reaction to this tag. He just tagged in he came. He hit Escobar with dragon screws and the running double knees. Ricochet tagged back in. He had a springboard clothesline and a standing shooting star, but McDonough broke up the pin. Escobar and McDonough gave Andrade a double vertical suplex. Ricochet tried a springboard clothesline. Escobar caught him with a midair knee strike. Escobar brought Ricochet off the top rope at one point with a Hurricane Rana, but Ricochet flipped over into a leg drop on McDonough. Andrade wiped out Escobar with a back elbow, and then he gave McDonough his twisting double underhook finish for the win. He used to call it The Message. It has a new name. It is no longer The Message. Now it is The Shadow. What will it be next week? I don't know. Let's all come up with what the name of his finishing maneuver will be next week. After the match, Damian Priest came into the ring. He attacked Andrade. He attacked Ricochet. Priest hit a razor's edge on Ricochet. South of Heaven chokeslam to Andrade. Priest goes over to Dominic, who is standing on the apron. And he starts yelling at him in Spanish. McDonough is standing on the floor outside. He wants to know, what did he say? And Priest hears this, and Priest in English explains to him, he says, I don't need you. You guys need me. And then he walked off. I don't know where Finn Balor was, but there was some news today about Finn Balor. His contract is coming up. We've been hearing a lot about this lately. There's a lot of WWE deals that are coming up in these next couple of months. Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, Drew McIntyre. Now we heard the same thing about Finn Balor. The belief is that Balor was going to re-sign if he hasn't already. It's apparently a long-term deal for a lot more money that they've offered him. Balor went on Twitter and he posted something. And if you, I don't have the message in front of me, but if you read the beginning of it, it starts out like a message, like he's thanking WWE. And he wants you to think like, oh shit, he's leaving, right? But by the time you get to the end of the message, he says, I ain't going nowhere. So Finn Balor is going to be with this company for a while yet. But he was not on the show tonight. Jackie Redmond was in the back, interviewing Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, quickly interrupted by some sort of commotion that was happening off screen. So Jackie tells Stu, the cameraman, come with me, and they pan over, and we see Nia Jax and Liv Morgan. They're being separated by referees. A fight has broken out here, and they're being separated by the officials. I couldn't get a good view of what was going on, though. From what I could tell, it looked as if, Nia walked up to Liv. I couldn't hear what she said to her. Liv was kind of playing with her hair. Nia put her in a front face lock, almost like a choke. And then other wrestlers came over to break them up. And Triple H was sitting there, and some monitors got knocked over. Nia went to go yell at Triple H, and we couldn't hear what she said to him. She may have called him a clown. I don't know. I think I'm getting my stories mixed up here. No. So they were having a little brawl. The referees were separating them. All of a sudden, you see Becky Lynch is just strolling on by as all of this mayhem is going on. And she walks over to Jackie Redmond, takes the microphone away from her, and she starts to cut a promo as she is walking towards the ring. She notices Maxine Dupree is sitting on an equipment case having a conversation with Ivy Nile. And she decides to go over and interview her. And she mentions to Maxine, giving her some words of encouragement. She asks, this is your first time challenging for a World Heavyweight Championship, right? Maxine nods yes. And Becky told her to go out there and show everybody why it will not be your last. And Maxine smiled. And so Becky continued her voyage through the backstage area. She dropped the microphone right before she went through the curtain into the gorilla position. She called for her music. They played her music. And she made her way out for the main event, which was a battle royal for the vacant Women's World Championship with about 25 minutes left in the show. These were the entrants in the battle royal. We had Becky Lynch, Nia Jax, Liv Morgan, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, Natalya, Ivy Nile, Maxine Dupree, Katana Chance, Caden Carter, Piper Niven, Chelsea Green, Candice LeRae, and Indy Hartwell. Tegan Nox was listed in the preview on WWE.com. There was no Tegan Nox. There was no mention of Tegan Nox. I don't know where she was. I don't know if she's not medically cleared or what the deal is there, but she was not in here. Michael Cole said that it was only the 4th time in company history that a traditional battle royal would crown a new world champion. He specifically listed Gail Kim. I remember that, too. I think that was her first night on Raw, too. She won a championship. Not to be confused with the battle royal that ended her career, where she was just done with this company and eliminated herself and left and never came back. That's a boss. Then she went to the Knockouts division, and she and Awesome Kong, they completely blew that place up and reinvented the entire women's wrestling scene here in North America. But he mentioned Gail Kim being one who won a championship at a battle royal. He mentioned Kurt Angle, and he mentioned the Great Khali as the 3 wrestlers to win world gold in a battle royal. And it reminded me of something that I have tried to forget about, which was the sight of the Great Khali holding up the big gold belt as the world heavyweight champion. It's a memory I try to suppress and not think about too often. Maxine eliminated Candice LeRae, followed that up by eliminating Indy Hartwell. Got a nice reaction from the crowd for that. Caden Carter and Katana Chance, they worked together. Baszler tossed Chance over the top rope. Carter was on the apron. She caught her partner, but then Zoe kicked Carter, which led to Carter and Chance both being eliminated from this battle royal. Nia Jax eliminated Ivy Nile. Maxine Dupree starts yelling at Nia, and Nia shoves her down. So Maxine gets up, starts throwing kicks at Nia Jax, and the crowd's getting into it. And then she gives her an enziguri and kicks her in the back of the head. And now she's getting a pretty good reaction here from this crowd. And then she went to the well one too many times. And Maxine threw another kick, which got caught by Nia, who then dumped her out over the top rope, and everybody booed. So Maxine didn't do much, but what she did do, because again, they're really trying to build her up as the underdog. Like Chad Gable, was bullying her in that segment earlier in the show. They had that little interaction with her and Becky Lynch in the back. Like it's little things like that. Whatever you think of Maxine Dupree and what her future may or may not be, it's smart to try to build sympathy for her in those situations, and then hopefully she's putting the work in, and as she continues to train and learn and hopefully improve, she can show off new things here and there. And over time, maybe she'll start to actually get over. Right now she's doing little spots like this. If she can pull it off and not embarrass herself and look bad, the people get behind her. Maybe the people will get behind her as the underdog, right? She's still very, very green. She still has no business being in, I was going to say long matches, but really in any matches on television, I feel like, until she's in a position where she can have longer matches. But she got thrown into the fire. She's getting on the job training, and hopefully she'll pick it up, but the crowd was very responsive to her here. So Becky eliminated Piper Niven, who then pulled Becky under the bottom rope and ran her into the ring steps. Piper hit a cannonball on Becky against the ring steps, and then she cleared off the announce desk, and she placed Becky on top of it.
It's the amazing Gunther.
Oh, look who it is.
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther, the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
It's our boy Gunther. Hey, Corey Everett, man, thank you. No message. Just dropping $50 here on the street. We've already topped what we did for Dynasty last night. Some of these AEW shows have been kind of dead. Corey, thank you, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And Gunther. Corey also dropped the 12 and says, Dom has got that pedo mustache. It's just a weird look for him. He looks like Joe Dirt. With the mustache and the mullet. I don't know. He just reminds me of Joe Dirt. So Piper Niven has got Becky Lynch, who has not been eliminated, laid out on top of the announce desk. Now, Nia Jax just so happened to be near the ropes. And so Piper Niven, for some unexplained reason, other than just they had to do this to set up the spot. So that's the most logical explanation here. But like in kayfabe, why she would do this, I don't know, when she's about to destroy this other woman here. But she grabs Nia's leg and yanks her out of the ring. Nia ends up hitting a Uranagi that sends Niven onto Becky on top of the table. And the table does not break. The table was supposed to break. The table did not break. Nia then goes to pick up Piper Niven for a Samoan drop. And she dropped her all right. She initially dropped her, but she was struggling and she was able to pick her up. And she got her balanced on her shoulders. Now, when she went backwards with her, there was no momentum there. So I knew right away, as soon as I saw her going backwards, I said, that table's not going to break. And she just kind of dumped her for a Samoan drop on top of Becky. And again, for the second time, the table did not break. Chelsea Green, meanwhile, while all of this is going on, is eliminated by Natalya. But all of the referees, their attention is diverted to all this madness that's going on at the announce desk. So it's kind of like the 97 Rumble when Steve Austin got eliminated. There was some commotion outside the ring with Mankind and I think Terry Funk, maybe they were brawling. All the referees were dealing with that. They did not see Stone Cold get dumped out. So he snuck back into the ring, ended up winning the entire thing. Chelsea Green did not win the entire thing. But she did jump back up on the apron. And she's sitting there, right? She's calling for Piper Niven. She's yelling Piper's name. The referee turns around, doesn't know that she had hit the floor, just sees her sitting there, and orders her to get back into the ring. And Chelsea says, okay. And she rolls under the bottom rope and gets back into the ring. After a commercial break, they showed a replay. Finally, during the commercial break, success. Nia Jax picks up Becky Lynch for a powerbomb, powerbombs her through the announce desk, and the table finally did break. Hallelujah. It only took 3 tries, but they got the job done. Zoe eliminated Chelsea Green for real this time. The referee saw it. Shayna Baszler eliminated Natty. Final 4 in the ring were Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Liv Morgan. Becky was still down at ringside. Nia eliminated Stark. Then she eliminated Baszler. So that left Nia Jax, Liv Morgan, and guess who's crawling back into the ring? Becky Lynch. The final 3 here in this Battle Royal. Morgan gave Jax a code breaker, just as Becky at the same time brought Liv down with a neck breaker. Nia then ended up dropping each woman with a Samoan drop. Nia tried to eliminate Liv and Becky at the same time, but they fought her off together. They tried for a double suplex. Nia stuffed it, reversed it, ended up suplexing the both of them instead. Nia set up for the annihilation in the corner, dragged them over to the corner, climbs up to the middle rope. Becky Lynch, though, gets up and shoves her over the top rope. Nia, though, doesn't hit the floor. Nia lands on the apron. And she tried to get back in, but Liv Morgan hit a code breaker as she was climbing through the ropes. Now Nia is dead weight. She's draped over the middle rope. Becky from the middle rope hits her diving leg drop. And Nia falls and crashes down to the floor. Nia Jax has been eliminated. And then there were 2. And those 2 were Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan. They ended up on the apron until Liv hit a code breaker. Becky, though, managed to stay on the apron. She stayed upright. Morgan then went for Oblivion. Lynch stuffed it. And then Becky hit a terrible-looking manhandle slam on the apron. And Liv very slowly then rolled off the apron and hit the floor and was eliminated. And just like that, Becky Lynch is your new Women's World Heavyweight Champion. Now, I have to point something out here about the finish of this match. A couple of things, actually. Number 1, Liv Morgan, she did go out over the top rope, ended up on the apron. She pulled Becky through the ropes. And I saw this and I said, well, I hope this is not leading to the finish here, especially if Becky is losing, because she did not go out over the top rope. Liv just pulled her through the middle rope. And now they're kind of going back and forth. The announcers are talking about like, oh, you know, like almost as if whoever falls is going to lose. But I'm like, dude, she didn't go out over the top rope. And you could see the referee was saying something to them. And I was trying to listen to what he was saying. I think he was telling them to get back in the ring and do it over again and come back out over the top rope. They ignored him. if that's what he said, they ignored him. In the end, it didn't matter because Becky won. But I saw that and I said, oh boy, I hope they realize she didn't go out over the top rope. Becky celebrated in the crowd, took selfies with different kids. This dragged on for so long, I thought that somebody was coming out. I said something must be happening here. But nothing happened. She just continued. They obviously just ran short on time. They were stalling for time. She's celebrating and taking pictures with kids in the crowd. Finally, we get the delayed pyro celebration. You know, like half an hour later, the pyro finally shoots off. And that's how the show ended. The other observation I said that I had, you would think that Liv Morgan would have learned her lesson from the Royal Rumble this year. Do you remember how Liv Morgan got eliminated in the Royal Rumble this year? She was on the apron. I think it was Jade Cargill who eliminated her. But she was on the apron. And she got thrown off or booted off, whatever it was, and hit the floor. And that's how she got eliminated. And here in this Battle Royal, same thing. Ends up on the apron, which is a dangerous place to be in a Battle Royal, and ends up getting eliminated. Those who do not learn from their mistakes are doomed to repeat them. And that is what ended up doing in Liv Morgan tonight here on this show. They went with the safe choice. I mean, Becky got a big pop for winning because Becky is still one of the most over stars in the entire company, not just female stars. She's one of the most over stars on the roster. She's not over at the same level I would say that she was at her peak when she was red hot. Like we're talking late 2018, early 2019. But she is still one of the more popular names. She's the biggest star in the Raw Women's division now with the absence of Rhea Ripley. I am not surprised that they decided we need to have this title right now on someone like Becky Lynch. Now, they're going back to the well with her again, 7 times women's champion. She's got some catching up to do if she wants to catch up to Charlotte Flair. She's not in Charlotte territory yet, but whether it was Becky or Charlotte, there's a sameness to it, and you would hope that there was a better option here. Liv Morgan, story-wise, would have made more sense, but if Rhea Ripley is not going to be back for several months, if she's going to have surgery and it's going to be a while, then Liv Morgan does not need to win the title right now. So if that's the case, then that's fine. Liv Morgan may never win the title. Just because, she injured Rhea Ripley, I mean, I guess I shouldn't even use air quotes here. I mean, she did injure her. But just because she injured Rhea Ripley does not mean that she has to have the title when Rhea comes back. We don't know what the plan is going to be for Rhea Ripley when she comes back. Is she going to win the title back right away and then defend it against somebody like Bianca at WrestleMania? Or is she going to be out long enough where Rhea Ripley is going to get the Cody Rhodes treatment, win the Royal Rumble, and then have to go to WrestleMania to get her belt back there? We don't know yet. It depends on the timetable for her return. But again, Liv Morgan can always win the belt at some other point. I'm looking at this wondering, what is Becky going to be doing at Backlash? I think we may get a triple threat match. It may be Becky, Nia, and Liv, which frankly, you could have done that tonight. You didn't even need to have a battle royal. You could have just had a triple threat match. But that may be the match for Backlash. So all the Liv Morgan fans out there who I'm sure are very upset right now that she did not win tonight, and why does it have to be Becky? Liv's got her fans. She's got her diehards. Calm down. She still might end up with that championship. They might have just wanted to go with Becky right now because they want the title on a bigger name. And they want Liv to win it off of a babyface and not in some random battle royal. But whatever it is, it was the safe choice. And again, I would not call this a filler episode of Raw, but it was also not a terribly exciting episode. There were things that I liked, as far as the Gunther promo, the Drew McIntyre segment with Sheamus. Match-wise, look, even the Battle Royal was what it was. It was a Battle Royal. I mean, how do you even grade these things? It was nothing special. The fans were happy at the end to see Becky get the big win, but the Battle Royal was fine. The tag team title match was okay. It really wasn't that great. Frankly, for a DIY match, it was a disappointment. You expect more out of a DIY match, but we didn't really get much from that. Up and down the rest of the show, not a whole lot here. Even the New Day Imperium match, just a very inferior match compared to their past work together. So this was not a show that was carried by the in-ring work. But there were some big developments, and now we head into the draft, and that's why this was a total lame duck show. This show is going to look different in a week. Whether it's radically different, where we have champion swapping brands, or it's just a few new names here and there to just add some fresh faces to the show. Whatever it is, this show is going to look different in a week, and I feel like they just didn't want to. They didn't want to do too much, but they did just enough. It's a good way of describing it. Didn't do too much, but they did just enough. And it made for a decent episode of Raw. I wouldn't go beyond that. There is a video up on the channel. I got it up earlier today. It's from episode 858. I did go over some of the moves that I would make in the WWE draft, my draft picks and thoughts on swapping champions and calling people up from NXT. So chime in on that video. Leave a comment on there. Let me know what your draft moves are, what you agree with and what you don't agree with. That's up on the channel right now. Let's take a look at the Twitter poll here for tonight. What did you think of Raw? Here from Columbus, Ohio. 47.5% thumbs up for tonight's show. 33% thumbs in the middle. And almost 19% thumbs down, with 1,500 votes in so far and counting. So at Solomonster on Twitter is the place to go to vote. It's not a great score. Seems pretty accurate to me, though. I was not a huge fan of this show tonight. Let's take a look at your super chats. Hang out here for a little bit if you got questions for me or you just want to support the channel. Now's the time to get them on in. And let's start out here with J-Glow. I know J-Glow got one in early here, so I'll go with him first. J-Glow with the $9.99 says, SmackDown is leaving Fox in October. Says, Raw is moving to Netflix in January. Why draft your top star in Cody Rhodes to a network that they are leaving? Don't you think that Netflix would want Cody on Raw? Netflix is not making any demands in April of 2024 for who they want on Raw in January of 2025. So no, Netflix is not demanding anything. And if you want Cody Rhodes, if he's the champion, if you want Cody Rhodes on Monday Night Raw for that big Netflix launch, then you can have Cody Rhodes on Raw. It doesn't mean you can't draft him to SmackDown now. There are any number of ways for you to get Cody on Raw come next year. And by the way, they're moving to Netflix in January. It doesn't mean that Cody has to necessarily be full-time on Raw as of January. They're going to have a draft after WrestleMania next year, too. But there's this little thing that I am hoping this time around they make more use of with the GMs now, which are trades. So at any given moment, you could work out a trade. Cody may not even be the champion by that point. Cody may lose the title later this year. It's very easy to get Cody on to Raw if they want him on Netflix for the launch. You can't base decisions around who's going to be on Raw in January or February of next year now, here in April. So moving Cody over to SmackDown is fine. If they want him on Raw, easy enough to get him onto that show. It's not a big deal. The Real CS says, I think DIY are going to beat Theory and Waller at SummerSlam for the tag team titles since SummerSlam is in Cleveland, Johnny's hometown. That is my prediction. Josh Carlos 98. Where does Gunther rank among the all-time Intercontinental Champions? Hard to argue that he isn't the best one. I mean, look at the quality of the matches he had, coupled with the length of his run. Right? Past the Honky Tonk Man. And it's not just some meaningless, trivial number. He's got the resume to back it up. He had some incredible matches during this run. Right? He had better matches as the champion than most of the Intercontinental Champions that we've had. So he's certainly in the conversation for the best if he is not the best. But it's hard to argue that he wouldn't be number one, number two. Now, look, I grew up watching people like Mr. Perfect and Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and Randy Savage. They were all great Intercontinental Champions. But where they really shined is when they were WWE champion. Most of them were WWE champion. You know, Perfect wasn't, Razor Ramon wasn't. Most of those guys went on to do much bigger things than the Intercontinental title. Michaels, Brett, Jericho, Austin, Savage, all those guys. Gunther will eventually be a world heavyweight champion, but as of this moment, I don't know. It's hard to argue that he would not be the best. Although I'm sure that will deeply, deeply upset people who will simply say that it is a recency bias, and therefore I'm not allowed to say that. We have the real CS. Do you think CM Punk at this point in his career is perfectly content to never be world champion again? That is the feeling that I get from him. My understanding was that in AEW, he never wanted to be the world champion. Tony Khan wanted to put the title on him because he was a big star and he wanted him to have the belt, and Punk was like, all right. I don't think it was a situation where Punk was lobbying for it, necessarily wanted it. So do I think he wants to be world champion? I think he wants to be world champion in that he wants to be in the mix. He wants to be in those main events. He wants to be in the spotlight, right? Everybody wants that. Do I think he cares if he's the world champion again? No. No, I think he's glad to be getting a second chance. I think he's glad to not be working in AEW anymore, and I'm sure he's making great money and he's having fun, and I think that's probably the most important thing right now to him. I don't think he's politicking to be the world champion. Prince Vegeta with the $9.99 says, congratulations to Swerve on becoming the champion. It's cool to see fresh faces with world titles now. But is the Wish version of Swerve winning the championship tomorrow? I don't think he's ready. He's talking about Trick Williams. Trick Williams, I don't look at Trick Williams as the Wish version of Swerve Strickland. Trick Williams is not fully cooked yet. He'll get there in time. Some people in their emails to me, because I asked you guys on the podcast this weekend, let me know your picks for the draft and who you would move over. There were a few people, I think 2 or 3 people who mentioned Trick and Mello and Ilya. You don't move all of them. I mean, Shawn Michaels needs to keep some of these people. I think that Ilya is going to move. I think that Roxanne can probably stay for a little while. Carmelo Hayes absolutely should be drafted and will be, I believe. Trick Williams should not be drafted. Trick Williams needs to stay in NXT for a while. Now is the time where you can put the title on him and let him have a run as the face of that brand and see how he does. Like, NXT is the place to do that. Not Raw, not SmackDown. NXT is the place where if you think he's at a certain level where he's just about ready to break through, you put the title on him, let him run with it, see how he does. See how he does under the pressure, see how he does in these big main events that they have. You know, can he carry a match when he's in there with somebody other than an Ilya Dragunov or somebody who's, you know, a lot better than him? That's what NXT is for. And he'll either sink or swim, and then you'll know where he stands and how ready he really is to be called up to the main roster. You don't call him up now, though. I think that would be a mistake. Is he going to win the title tomorrow night? Probably. Yeah, because Ilya Dragunov should be called up in this draft. Better to get the belt off of him now instead of drafting him while he's still the NXT champion. Fire Panda, thank you very much. Did you see the idiot on Twitter? Yes. Oh, there's a question here. Let's finish this here. He says, did you see the idiot on Twitter complaining that JoJo dare to have some fun for one night and not stay in her house and mourn Bray? Unlike that prick, I'm happy that JoJo got to have fun. She deserves it. So yeah, I think what that was, she went to Coachella or something. I know there was some photos on social media of her with some people. I think it was Coachella that she was at, and she looked like she was having a good time. I mean, again, you have people who, I think more than anything else, what it is, you have people who are very deeply depressed and deeply upset about their own lives. And so when they see other people having fun and laughing and enjoying themselves and being social, they're sort of projecting their feelings onto them, and they're very jealous, and they get very angry, and they get very resentful. And I think that is probably part of what's going on here. You have a lot of very jealous, very insecure people who don't like seeing other people happy. So they lash out and they make stupid comments. You know, as if this woman hasn't been through enough. You know, God forbid she should go out and have a little bit of fun. Again, it's not even, I almost wish he didn't even mention it, because it's not even worth bringing these people up and giving them oxygen. Like, why even give idiots like that attention? So I didn't see it until you mentioned it. It doesn't surprise me that there are people who would make comments like that. And the best thing to do, honestly, is just to ignore them, because they're not worth the time. They're really not. Donnie Yasu says, Sheamus clearly went on a cut, and you could tell the difference in 1 week. Props to him. Yeah, dude's gonna be shredded within a month. He'll be back looking like he did before he left in a matter of weeks. For all the people making comments, they'll shut up real quick. The Carlosa says, burger after burger after burger. If Drew McIntyre does not get the title at Clash at the Castle, it would be an absolute failure of the system. Prince Vegeta says Sheamus gave Jabbermura too much in that match. He should not have kicked out of all that shit. Well, I didn't book it. Brian H. the Green Boy, thank you for the 10. I respect Triple H, and I am beyond grateful to have him in charge of creative now instead of Vince McMahon. But damn, did they really have to go to Becky Lynch again? This should have been Liv's moment. Again, they wanted to go with the biggest name that they had left. The biggest name they had left was not Liv Morgan. The biggest name they had left was Becky Lynch. I wish there was someone better for that spot. Again, Liv would have made sense. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm devastated she didn't win. I don't really care. It doesn't really faze me. When I look at the rest of the division, though, I'll tell you what, it's better than putting the belt on, fucking Nia Jax. Or putting the belt on, who else is there right now? Realistically, in the Raw Women's division, there is nobody else. It was going to be one of those three. Am I surprised they put it on Becky? No. Do I wish there was somebody else they could put it on? Yes. But I'm not surprised that they chose to go with Becky. Chris Mikesell. Perk Gable's promo was great. Looking forward to this version of him since Jason Jordan retired. Also got a Jason Jordan cameo tonight. Poor Gio, he is done. Yeah, Giovanni Vinci is done. He may eventually come back and have a match with Ludwig Kaiser, but he's done. Bobby's World, $10. I'm praying to any wrestling gods that will listen that Vince tries to start his own company. It will be such a spectacular fail for the ages, and even better, I will get to hear you talk about it. Let's be honest, that's really the reason why you want to see that. You just want to see me suffer. But thank you very much. Even though you want to see me suffer, I appreciate the super chat nonetheless. It's all good. Hey, Hoffenheim. Green Man. Hanging in there as he always does. Yes, he is. Domination Warrior. Dance like Nana or Daniel Garcia. Hashtag thank you, Joe. You got to dance like Nana, man. Nana's dance. It's a special dance. Not everybody can do it. I tried. I failed. But you got to dance like Nana. Chris AXC, what would have changed the wrestling landscape more? AEW existing before NXT Black and Gold, or the Triple H era coming before AEW existed? Triple H, his era existing before AEW did, because when AEW was first conceived, the biggest thing that company had going for it was the fact that, hey, we're the alternative to all the crap that you don't want to see with Vince McMahon. And one of the worst things to happen to AEW was Vince McMahon going away and losing power, and Triple H ascending and taking over creative, because now their big ace in the hole was gone, right? I mean, that was like, we're a safe space away from Vince McMahon, you know, come over here. There's more wrestling over here, because there was some really just terrible fucking television that we had to sit through during those years. Once Vince was out of the picture and things started to perk up a little bit, it's like, oh, okay, all right. Now it's not so bad anymore. And that was how AEW, I think, lured a lot of people over. You know, a lot of lapsed fans, people who just didn't want to watch the WWE product anymore. They don't have that anymore. So if they didn't have that at the beginning, I'm not saying AEW wouldn't have had a reason to exist. They probably still would have started, you know, a company, but I don't know that they would have been as successful as quickly as they were if people were no longer dissatisfied in a lot of cases with what they were getting from WWE, right? It was almost the best thing possible for Tony Khan when he first started that company. Jerome Eugenio, it seems like Nakamura loses a lot. Yeah, it seems like it, doesn't it? Doesn't it seem like it? What made you think that? Maybe it was all the L's this man has been taking now for the past few years? It says, yet Solo has a longer losing streak than him. Solo Sikoa has lost a lot of matches. Solo Sikoa has got to win a match soon. It's getting very sad. Hoffenheim, I bet they didn't want to reward Liv for injuring Rhea because of this Becky mania is running wild on us. That didn't have anything to do with it. Nobody is holding Liv Morgan responsible. It was a freak injury. They're not punishing Liv Morgan. They're not withholding the title from her because she hurt Rhea Ripley. It was a freak accident. Nobody was at fault. Alex says, Brother Solo ignoring storylines and other factors. Which would you consider the better match? Roman versus Cody 2 or Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay? I really don't want to answer this question. After today, I enjoyed both matches. I thought that the Roman and Cody match at WrestleMania was a 5-star match, and I thought that Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay was the best match in AEW history. Somehow there were people who conflated that to mean that I said it was the best match of all time. I don't know if these people can't read and they're dyslexic or they're just stupid. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know, but that's not what I said. But I do believe that it was the best match in AEW history. You don't believe that? Good for you. But I enjoyed them both. Alex, thank you. The Carlosis says, your thoughts on what Kenny Omega said about Rossi Ogawa. Not familiar with Ogawa, but I heard Kenny call him out for some pretty sick stuff, and I wonder if you knew more. I talked about it on the podcast this weekend, so if you want the full segment, it's on episode 858. I'll give you more there than I can give you here. So yes, I did talk about it. It is on episode 858 of the podcast. I may try to get that clip up on the channel tomorrow. So you could either check it out now or you could wait until tomorrow. It might go up tomorrow. The Average Grunt with the $7. Unlike the World Tag Titles, the new WWE Tag Titles notably share no design similarities with their singles counterparts. Are they perhaps a glimpse of what new men's and women's titles could look like? From what I understand, those titles were made a long time ago. I don't know if that means a year ago, over a year ago, so it's not a new thing. It's not like, well, this is the way things are going to be done now in the Endeavor era. I think those belts have been sitting somewhere for a long time collecting dust, and they finally had a reason to, you know, dust them off and use them. I wouldn't read too much into it. I don't see the giant logo belts. They're not going anywhere. Unfortunately, they're not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Corey Everett says, no flex, zone. They know better. They know better. Hey, Corey, thank you, man. Thank you for the 25. Melik Gaming, Gunther, 2025 Royal Rumble winner. What are your thoughts? Think he could be champion before then. If he's not champion before then I'm fine with that. Moise A. with that $100 bomb from earlier. I already read his message before, but again, I want to say thank you to him. I appreciate that very much, and I'm glad that you enjoyed the podcast. I'm happy to have you. Thank you, sir. Joseph Stewart. Did the Triple H, Stephanie, and Test storyline only happen because Stone Cold had to leave for neck surgery in late 1999? It's a good question. I don't know. We were supposed to get a triple threat match at the Survivor Series with Stone Cold, Triple H, and The Rock. That angle came maybe the week after on Raw. Austin leaving just completely screwed everything up. And so it's possible that Triple H and Stephanie, maybe that angle doesn't happen if Austin sticks around. It's one of those what if questions. What if, right? What if Austin never had to leave? Would Triple H and Stephanie have gotten married in storyline? And if not, it's kind of funny to look back at that, because if they don't work together, then they don't get together. And if they don't get together, then WWE right now, in the absence of Vince McMahon, looks very different. Right? Most likely, it looks very different. So I don't know. It's one of those great what if questions that we'll never know the answer to. Moyes says, forgot to ask, do you think WWE will get rid of Def Rebel, especially since they have been trending on X lately? Says, man, I miss CFOs. Man, things are bad when people are saying, boy, I miss CFOs. There were some good CFO songs, though. Look, they see the trends. They see all the trends. They're well aware of it. Somebody said before in the chat, Triple H posted something on Twitter earlier, and the first comment was like, fire Def Rebel. Like, they're aware of it. I don't know why they don't bring back Jim Johnston. I really don't. I don't. And it's not even a matter of, you can't just go back to the old. It's not about going back to the old days. Jim Johnston had a knack for what he did. He had a knack for being able to connect with a certain character. He could just watch the way somebody walked. He can watch the way they talked in a promo, or watch the way that they just carried themselves. And then he could put a song together for that person. He was a magician when it came to that stuff. So many iconic themes that he's responsible for over the years. And as far as I know, he's available. I mean, if they wanted to have a conversation with him, I'm sure that he would, be open to hearing what they had to say. Forget CFOs, man. I'd love to have him back doing theme music for people. Let's get Jim Johnston back in there. The guy's not dead. He's still out there. He's still doing his thing. Let's get him back. Corey Everett says, Dom got that pedo stash. Thank you for the $50, man. I appreciate it. Love you, Corey. Thank you. Manuel Macias, do you think the bloodline will overshadow Cody's title reign? Also, do you think Cody tries too much to be like John Cena, or is that just how he is? I think that's just how he is. I think he's trying to emulate certain qualities that John Cena had, but I think that really is just who he is. He was like that in AEW when he was one of the EVPs. I think he learned a lot from his dad and the way his dad carried himself and conducted himself. Cody's just a good guy. Even when I met him and stuff, and we got to hang out at the Nightmare Factory for a while and just kind of hang out in the ring with him, talking to him, and again, just him, listening to him speak and the things that he talks about when he talks about wrestling history, going back even to the 70s and in the 80s and stuff. We were talking about all kinds of stuff. It was like sitting under the learning tree for 45 minutes. But watching the way that he interacted with people and just treats people, he's a good dude. I think that's just how he is. I don't think he's one way on camera in front of people and then the light goes out and he's a totally different person. I think that's just who he is. Corey says, just rewatch the triple threat with Becky, Ronda, and Charlotte. Says, damn, I miss the man. That pretty much is where Becky hit her peak of popularity. D. James. Make Liv the Mad Queen. Wouldn't hurt. Could do that. Abu Sika says, figures the swack on Maven. I'm not sure. I have no idea what that means, but Abu Sika, it's good to hear from you, man. I haven't heard from you in a while. Richie, so Vince set himself to make out with Tori Wilson in 2001. You didn't know that? Any woman that Vince McMahon made out with on television, guess whose idea that was? Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon booked himself to make out with most of the divas back then. He had segments with Tori. He had segments with Stacy Keibler. He had segments with Candice Michelle, Trish. Who else? Christy Hemme? I don't remember. Christy Hemme, well, I shouldn't say anything. Daniel Malcolm. We need a no flex zone super chat. I don't know if people are ready for that. Do we, though? Do we really? Base Beer says, buy or sell, Boogeyman or Mordecai? Boogeyman. Sable. Yes, Sable's another one. Dawn Marie is another one. Tell you, this guy's a fucking creep. Didn't really need to wait 20 years to figure that out. Signs were always there. Remember the show Charlie's Angels? Yeah, Vince had his own. Vince had his own angels. Base Beerus, thank you for the $2. WrestleMania 17 main event is better than I remembered. Yeah, I went back recently and I watched that. Even the entrances. The entrances were so simple. Like Austin marches down to the ring. Here comes Rock. And the entrances feel epic. But they don't take 20 minutes to get down to the fucking ring. Some big Hollywood production. I know everything's like that now. They do that in UFC and they do that in boxing. Everything is all glitz and glamour and fucking Broadway show before somebody walks out to the ring. But like, they came out to the ring and they, ding, 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 and they went at it. And that whole main event, man, that thing was fantastic. It holds up. Even after all these years, it holds up. Thunder Force, do you think Io Sky will get another run as the women's champion again? Are you asking me if I would like to see her as the women's champion, or do I think that she will be women's champion? I would like to see her have another run. Do I think she will? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. Corey Everett with the $10 again with no flex zone. They know better. They know better. Who's they? Who is they? Who is this no flex zone, by the way? Where did these guys come from? We have got... Who is this? The Winston Slip. I see you, Winston. The Winston Slip with the $5. A few WWF entrance themes that would get you through a 1-hour hike. Was not able to watch Raw because of the NHL playoffs. Thanks for the review, Solomonster. There's a lot going on tonight. The Knicks had a big game tonight. A lot of sports stuff. WWF entrance themes that would get me through a 1-hour hike. I mean, most of them. I mean, I could load up a whole playlist with all the classic stuff, man. When they had those, oh gosh, it was the anthology albums that came out that Jim Johnston put out. I was all over that shit. Like day one, when those CDs came out, I bought them. I bought all the Full Metal albums. I have all that stuff. So I could listen to that all day long. Real American, Demolition, Girls in Cars, which was for Strike Force. Yeah, Honky Tonk Man, $1 Million Man, all of it. Right on into the New Generation era and the Attitude era. Abusika, looking forward to using my super chat. I look forward to it too. Look, dude, it'll always be there. You know what it is. It's in the list. It's always there. It's not going anywhere. It's got your name on it. Jive Soul Bro. Thank you. Yes, that's one of my favorites. Barry MK says, I've been watching the Raws and SmackDowns leading to ECW One Night Stand 2005, and they did not advertise any matches. Is this the first major pay-per-view to do that? I believe it was. I mean, for WWE it was, because they never did that before. I mean, there were shows that came later on. They would have Cyber Sunday and Taboo Tuesday. I don't know that they announced anything in advance other than, who you were able to vote on for some of the matches, but that came later on. That was in like 2007, 2006, 2008. So yeah, I don't think they announced a single match on that show. I wish I was there. I mean, the atmosphere in the building that night was off the page. To be in that building for that Sandman entrance when he came through, the Hammerstein Ballroom would have been incredible. I had a friend who actually went there, and still jealous that he got to go and I didn't. Anyway, the goal tonight for Be the Booker was 450. We are currently sitting at over 500 likes. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate that. Keep hitting that thumbs up. It helps the video out when you do so. Right now, though, let's go ahead and Be the Booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time
Speaking of Mr. Perfect.
The Booker.
He's wearing that Intercontinental title the wrong way. He's wearing it on his head. I miss Mr. Perfect. All right, last night, I think we had a clean sweep last night. And I think we had a clean sweep on Friday. Can we three-peat? Can we go 3 in a row here? Find out. Tag team Be the Booker kicks off with the Body Donnas. Former tag team champions Skip and Zip. With Sunny. Amazing. Isn't it? Isn't it amazing? Body Donnas. I don't know about this one, guys. Guys, I don't know about this one. This is not going to work out. It's going to be the Body Donnas, and it's going to be Kane and Mankind against Skip and Zip. As soon as the words left my lips about the possibility of three-peating, it was doomed to fail. Shot myself in the foot. You think after a while I'd learn my lesson, but apparently not. Apparently not. Women's Be the Booker. I know, the streak is over. What can I say? The streak is over. All streaks must come to an end, right? Alba Fire, the former NXT UK Women's Champion and NXT Women's Tag Team Champion. All right, not bad. Not bad. Let's see. Alba Fire is going to be taking on Victoria. That's a good match. That's a very good match. Victoria should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't believe she is, and I believe that she should be. Next year, put Victoria in the Hall of Fame. All right, men's Be the Booker. Let's wrap this bad boy up. Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up. That's what she said. Here we go. No, that's Mr. Perfect. We begin with, it's everybody's favorite. It's one half of the AEW Tag Team Champions, Matthew Jackson of the Young Bucks, with a big old smile on his face. I'm sure everybody in the chat is a big fan of Matthew Jackson. Matt Jackson in our main event. Let's see. It all depends on the opponent here. All depends on who he matches up with. Matt Jackson going to go one-on-one with Sami Zayn. Oh, that's going to be an indie dream. Some people are going to really hate that match. Some people are going to love it. That'd be a great match. Matt Jackson and Sami Zayn. El Generico. That'd be a great match. But unfortunately, there can be no three-peats. There can be no clean sweep tonight, but not a terrible night. We have got the Winston Slip says APA, Radicals, Ziggler, Assman, all underrated themes. Ziggler, Radicals theme was good. APA's theme was good. Billy Gunn, yeah, catchy, very catchy theme. Jesus Cashy with a $4.99. Hey, Solo, I was at the gym wearing wrestling merch and was approached by an upcoming wrestler. Is that Memphis? Memphis said he performs sometimes at Hog. Long-time listener. That's awesome. You were at the gym working out? I've been at the gym working out wearing a wrestling shirt sometimes, and I get the nod. I don't know if you've ever gotten that before. It doesn't have to be at the gym. It could be anywhere. Where you're just walking down the street, or you're in a store, or you're at the gym, you're doing a set, you're doing cardio, whatever it might be. You know, you've got your wrestling merch on, and somebody sees you, and they're like that, you know? That's how you know. Oh, okay, all right, yeah. You give them a little nod back. A little nod of respect, like, all right, I see you. You crazy bastard. And the funny thing is, when it happens, it's almost always when I'm wearing a Steve Austin shirt. So whether it's Austin 316 or I have like the Broken Skull shirt that has his logo on it, Austin is still over, man. I'm telling you, 25 years later, Austin is still over. No wrestling merch that I have ever worn in my life, going back to when I was a teenager and I would wear them in high school and stuff. No piece of wrestling merchandise ever got the attention that Austin 316 shirt got me. It didn't matter where I went. I could go to the store. I could go to the bowling alley. I could go to a game. I could go anywhere. It doesn't matter. There was always stares. There were always like, oh, hey, or people saying, hey, Stone Cold, you know, or flipping me the bird. Whether they were doing that for other reasons, I don't know. But always got a reaction out of it. Always. Scared the shit out of me once, though, because I was crossing the street. There was a guy in a truck that stopped at a red light and saw the shirt. Now, I didn't realize what was going on. He honked me. Don't do that, by the way. If you're ever driving a truck and somebody is walking right in front of the truck, don't hit your fucking horn unless you want to give that person a heart attack. I look up, I'm scared shitless, and I look up, and the guy's like pointing or whatever. I don't know what he's pointing at. He's pointing at my shirt. Oh, man. It was a moment in time. Austin was he was an enigma back then, man. He was just a megastar. Hey, Justin G renewed his channel membership here for 13 months. 13 months of membership, 11 months to that gold skull. Thanks, Solomonster. Thanks, chat. You keep it all fun for me. Well, Justin, thank you, man, for becoming a member 13 months ago. Here's to 13 more. And due to being in jail, Sonny will not be able to make it, so can we pick new opponents? Sonny was not wrestling in that match. If Sonny was wrestling, I would do it over again, but she was a manager, so we can't do that. We can't do that over again. Did I really once pay $8 for Mr. Sacco? Sadly, I did. They sold Mr. Sacco on WWE Shop. I bought one sock for $8, which actually cost me $12 when you factor in taxes and shipping. I'm the idiot who paid $12 for one sock. Only a wrestling fan, right? Only a wrestling fan would be stupid enough to do something like that. Now, I could have bought a second Mr. Sacco, so I would have had 2 socks, and then it would have cost me $24. But I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Base Beerus says, does Bree sing Bree mode to Bryan when he is hurt? No, I think when she sings it, that's what causes him to be hurt. It causes great pain whenever she sings it. See, you got it backwards. A sock that wasn't even used, says Deputy Duh. How do you know? Thunder Force 2000, where would Austin and Rock from WrestleMania 17 rank in WrestleMania main events for you? It would be number 1 for me if it wasn't for the finish. It's not number 1, but it's pretty high up on the list. I don't know where exactly I would rank it. You know, Cody and Roman, that main event this year is also very high up there. I don't want to say exactly what the order would be, but those are 2 matches that would be pretty high up on my list. I don't know that I could say it would be my number 1, though. Anyway, a lot of Sacco fans here in the chat, I see. Why isn't Elizabeth in the Hall of Fame? If you find out, I'd love to know. There's no good reason for it. She was such an important part of that whole storyline, and really in the company just in general for so many years. Absolutely belongs in there. Base Beer says, when did Ray's eye grow back? It took about 6 months. 6 months. He had about 80% vision back in his eye, and all the veins and connective tissue and everything grew back, and yeah, so he's doing well now after the eye was plucked out of his skull. That was a fun review. If you ever want to go back and check out an oldie here on the channel, go look for Extreme Rules. What was the horror show? Extreme Rules, the horror show from 2020 when we were all locked down. And I had to sit here watching a WWE pay-per-view in the empty Performance Center and watch Seth Rollins pluck Rey Mysterio's gumball eye out of his skull. You all wonder why I'm so happy that Vince McMahon is gone and Triple H has stepped in his place. Scary Sherry needs more love. Sherry Martel was fantastic. Sherry Martel is the subject of Dark Side of the Ring tomorrow night. So I'll be doing a review on that episode on the podcast next week, and I'm looking forward to that. And that's a sad story, too, as far as how things ended up for her. But she is the subject of Dark Side of the Ring this week, if you are keeping up with the show. If not, I got you covered with the reviews. You guys know that you can find a whole Dark Side of the Ring playlist here on the channel. Devin from New Jersey, my old man, says the WrestleMania main event was not a 5-star match because it was predictable and needed a ton of interference, which made Cody look weak. It did not make him look weak, but if that's his opinion, he's entitled to his opinion. It was a 5-star match. I know better than he does. So, I'm just saying. All right, let's wrap up here. I am going to be back with you on Wednesday night. That'll be AEW Dynamite. The first Dynamite coming out of Dynasty. They're going to be live from Daly's Place in Jacksonville. Jon Moxley is defending the IWGP Heavyweight title in the main event against Powerhouse Hobbs. And I'm thinking we may get at least one return on the show this week in the women's division. I would actually be surprised if we don't get at least one return on the show this week. We'll see. And I guess they'll have a storyline update on Bryan Danielson's condition as well. I could have done without the convulsing and the whole injury angle. I'll tell you what, as much as I loved that match last night with him and Ospreay, I actually feel like doing the finish the way they did And if you wanted to work an injury angle and say that Bryan is hurt and he's going to be gone for a while, to take time off, you could have done that after the fact. If you go back and watch the very end of that match, as I did, it almost took away from the reaction to the finish. The people were so up for that finishing sequence that when they saw Bryan on the mat twitching around and convulsing, that I feel like it took some people out of it. They're lucky it didn't take more people out of it. And I almost feel like it nearly kind of stunted the reaction to the pinfall there at the end, because there were people watching it going, wait, is he really hurt? As opposed to them just sort of enjoying the moment. So that would be my only critique. I wish I would have been able to, book it in a different way that did not have that finish. But again, I went back and watched the match again earlier today just to see if it was as good as I thought it was last night. And in fact, I can report to you that it was. So if you missed it, you missed a good one. Hey, Winston, thank you, says, those 2020 streams, more fun than WWE shows. I tried to make it that way. That was a very interesting time. We're going to look back on that years from now. It's going to be a weird thing to explain to people who I think did not live through it, what that was like. Hey, Nick Grasso, when are we getting Dark Side of the Ring episodes on Vince McMahon and Johnny Ace? Their stories have yet to be finished. Their stories may well end with at least one of them in an orange jumpsuit. So when that happens, then you'll have the complete story, and then you could tell the tale. But right now, it's a little too fresh. A little too soon. Be well. Stay safe. Thank you again for all the support. I appreciate you guys very much. If you missed the Dynasty review last night, please go check that out. And episode 858 of the podcast is up for you as well. So I will see you back here live for more sound off on YouTube on Wednesday for Dynamite. Hit that thumbs up on the way out. I'll see you Wednesday. Take care, guys.